if I can stream this. Otherwise, I'll have to just record. Okay. So I wanted to talk about something today that I think is really important because I saw some misinformation that's really concerning to me and to folks in my community.
Let me show you how I did it.
Let me hit stop on this.
Our startup is constantly evolving, and we need a website that can do.
So I'm going to check to see whether or not I can actually stream here today or not. Let's see if this is streaming or not. It looks like it is. All right. So first of all, YouTube will not let content creators like me speak about COVID-19 or coronavirus without demonetizing our videos, which that's fine. But also they're not, the algorithm is not going to share this video. So if you think this content ends up being important or insightful to you, or you like being able to talk to your friendly molecular biologist about this kind of stuff and not have to just rely on what you're seeing from the conventional news media sources to discuss this really big issue, then we're kind of counting on you to promote and share content like this. YouTube is not going to do this. It's not going to put this in front of people like it normally would. So if you're new to my channel, this is going to end up being a video. If you're new to my channel, I'm Jessa, and I have a PhD from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine in 2002. My PhD is in human genetics, and I thought about going and getting my diploma, which is hanging on the wall in my shop, and I decided I'm not venturing out into this dangerous world for that. But I did find, look at this, I found my dissertation. So here you go. Here's the front page of my dissertation, which I can't tell whether or not you can see that or if that's in focus, but it tells you that this is Jessa Jones, that's me, Baltimore, Maryland, April 2002. This is my dissertation from when I got my PhD. So because of that, YouTube, I'm letting you know that so that you can maybe consider this information source as having some sort of validity. So here's what I wanted to talk to you about. I noticed today in our community here in rural upstate New York that there was some discussion on a community social media page about the idea, I was really sick back in October, like really sick. I was so sick. And there were multiple people that believe that they may have had COVID-19, the coronavirus illness, way back October, November, December. And that really concerns me. It's something that we've kind of joked around about, even in my shop, because our rural area had a really, really, really bad illness. And we don't know for sure exactly what it was. It was probably the flu. One thing that we do know is that the test that if you're really sick and it's a couple of months ago and you go to the doctor, it's in the winter, then they're going to test you to see whether or not you have the flu. And the test that they're going to use often says you don't have the flu when really you do. So that's called a false negative. That's really, really common with the sort of in your office flu test. Now, there's no treatment for the flu. So this is what it would look like from a physician's mindset. In the community, here come some people in and they seem like they have the flu. You test them with the in the office test, the little 10 or 15 minute test that's just checking for the presence of a protein from the flu virus, and they're either going to say yes or no. So if the answer is yes, then there is a pretty elaborate tracking system in the United States to track cases of the flu. Once you start getting some yeses and you know that flu is present in your community, there's nothing you can really do for it other than just is it just get infected? You could take Tamiflu, but other than that, it's go home and rest. There's nothing clinically that you can really do for that. So with the flu test, I think that a lot of us ended up getting the flu and then getting negative flu tests And the physicians didn't take samples and send them out to the lab for genetic testing, which is the way that we're testing now for COVID-19, doing something called an RT-PCR test. That's the creme de la creme. That's the fancy test that you got to do in a lab, and it takes a couple of hours, and you got to know what you're doing in order to be able to do it. You know, so that generally isn't done for every single person in your community that's going to get the flu every single year. So I want that to be clear, that we have a mechanism for why'd you get so sick a couple of months ago? You probably had the flu, even if you had a flu negative test. Now, what if you didn't have the flu? Then there's other things that are having outbreaks. There's lots of these diseases that cause these same, like, really lingering, really terrible, worst I ever had. In fact, I've got a friend right now who is in the hospital who herself is an MD who has pertussis, whooping cough. Who gets that anymore? Well, there's breakthroughs because people aren't all immunized anymore. So there is other stuff that's going on in your community. That's the point that I wanted to make first. So the second thing that jumped out at me today, as I'm reading about people in our community, you know, kind of worried about whether or not they might have already had this, is that they're thinking, you know, if I already had it, then I'm immune, right? So if I'm pretty sure I already had it, I should be able to go out and be okay, right? And that is really crazy, terrible, bad misinformation, right? So if you think you had COVID-19 in October, you're definitely wrong in the US. In November, you're definitely wrong. In December, you're definitely wrong. In January, you're almost certainly wrong. And it's not until you think you had it in, you know, late February, March, depending on the areas, that might actually be true. And so it's really, really dangerous if you just go out in the community acting as if you're immune when you're not, because we all know we got to stay the heck inside so that we don't kill off, you know, we keep the death rate down to the hundreds of thousands, which is a sickening number of people, rather than the alternative, which is millions. So getting complacent is really, really dangerous. So let me tell you a little bit more about why that would be true in this community. Why is it so crazy to think that, you know, maybe the virus came over here from China before we think it did? Let me tell you why. Number one, the reason why I think you didn't have COVID-19 in October is because what do we know about this disease? It's really, really crazy contagious. It's so contagious. And when you want to think about how contagious is it, the best example is the 2-hour choir practice in Washington, right? 60 people showed up for a choir practice. None of them were sick. They sang together, you know, on some chairs for a couple hours. They went home, and within like a week, 2 of them are dead. 45 out of the 60 all have this terrible illness. That's how contagious this is. None of them were sick. It's just from singing. That's how contagious this is. So if back in October, you know, it was really like you, and when you look at these posts, it's as soon as one person in a community says, I think I might have had it. Yeah, me too. Oh, we probably all had it. No. It doesn't work like that, right? Because if indeed you and all these other community members had this terrible disease way back when this winter, then it would have been incredibly contagious. And what else do we know about this disease? Number 2, it kills some people. Where are the bodies, right? You'd have bodies piled up. You would have the emergency department in your area would notice there's a lot of people coming in that are old, that are dead, that have terrible pneumonias. And number 3 is that this disease has a distinct looking pattern when you send somebody off for imaging. So pneumonia is a really general term, right? But you can tell more or less when somebody has COVID-19 pneumonia by the way that, you know, the weird pattern it looks like in their lungs when you stick them in a scan, right? So these are the pieces of evidence that kind of make, you know, if you had COVID-19 way back when, then we would have seen early on, back at Christmas time, you would have seen lots of bodies piling up Lots of cases in the ED. And because our nation is really good at looking for flu and abnormal cases and mutation from the flu, right? Because the United States needs to inform the people in Australia, hey, here's what's coming to you. Look over here, the flu mutated. So make your vaccine for flu against this one. See, it's a little different. It's a little chocolatey now. Right? That has to work between the northern and southern hemisphere. So we're aware of and always trying to figure out what's up with the flu. The United States isn't going to just miss a massively contagious virus that kills people and mistake it for something else for a long period of time. So that's why if you were sick in October, in November, in December, and even in January for most places, you did not have COVID-19. So I really want you to think about that. Think about that. Next, I want to show you why this is really bugging me today. Here's my community. So in my community, where there are tons of people who are like, I probably had it. Yeah, you so sick. Tons of people think they probably had it. Now here's the real data as we sit here today. 2 weeks ago, this county, Monroe County in New York, upstate New York, where we live, had 0 cases. 2 weeks ago, 0. Now, 2 weeks later, what does it say? We got 390 cases that are confirmed. Now, confirmed means only the ones that they bothered to test. And in New York State, we're not doing very much testing. You only get tested today if you're a healthcare worker or if you're so sick that you can't breathe that you had to go to the hospital. Nobody else can get tested, right? So we have 400 people in 2 weeks that are confirmed positive. We got some bodies. There's 10 dead people. We've filled up a couple of these ICU beds. We've got 25 people in ICU, 70 people in the hospital in 2 weeks. That's how contagious this thing is. That doesn't just come from testing. These are people that are showing up to the hospital because they are sick or they are working there and are actually getting tested. So that's what 2 weeks of the spread of a really contagious disease looks like. Now in my area in particular, look at that. I'm in Honey Eye Falls, the iPad Rehab headquarters. Honey Eye Falls. We only have 1 to 5 cases. And why is that? Well, you can see that there's like a little bit of a spread out from the hospital on out. And you can see that each day these cases trickle out like this. So they emerge and spread from a city like Wuhan, China to New York City. You know, they spread from places where people are out to where people are not. So especially if you live in a rural area, you did not have COVID-19. Next, this is the tweet here that I saw from an MD, a medical doctor, right? So this is somebody I don't know named Pete. And Peter is a doctor, apparently an MD, who works on kids, which is a fantastic way to spend your life trying to help kids in the emergency room. And so looks like Peter also has some sort of a side biz, I think, going on. So he maybe got the same email that I got a few weeks ago. The email that I got a few weeks ago was, China has gotten better and China now wants to sell stuff. So China starts sending me emails because I buy cell phone parts all the time from China. And they say, hey, you want to buy cell phone parts? And guess what we have a lot of now? Masks. You want to buy masks? And do you want to buy this thing here? Do you want to buy this? You want to buy a coronavirus tester? And I thought, yeah, I do. I absolutely want to buy a coronavirus tester. I think this sounds really cool. What is this thing? And this thing is a class of a sort of a second way that you could test to see whether or not you have in the past had the coronavirus. So this thing is called a serology or an antibody test. And what it does is it, in theory, it does the same thing more or less that a pregnancy test does at the drugstore, right? So this is the same kind of a thing that we're familiar with, where there is a molecule in the test that is going to look for the presence of a molecule in your sample. In this case, it's blood. Now, the molecule that it's looking for If it finds it, then it's going to light up and show a line. So it's a pretty easy to do test. Just takes a couple of drops of blood, right? Now, what makes this molecule that the test is looking for? It's looking for an antibody, So when you first get sick, when you get sick with coronavirus, you're going to be sick. And at first, when you're asymptomatic, you're at the choir singing and you're infecting everybody, you're not going to make any antibodies. So you can't use that test then. You're going to make antibodies over a period of days after the sickness kind of goes through you and your body begins to respond and mount an immune system response. So antibodies, I like to think of them like little tiny flags. So your body is going to start printing flags to stick on the coronavirus the next time you come across it, so that your immune system in the future is going to see, it's going to be alerted by these flags, because your body makes antibodies that label ding, 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 when the coronavirus hits you again, so that your own immune system will clear it before you even get sick. So when we're immune to something, it doesn't just bounce off of us. It infects us. It gets labeled and it gets cleared before we notice it. So that's why our bodies make antibodies, and they come in a couple of different flavors. IgM is the early one, IgG is the later one. So this idea of having a test that could ask the question, do you have antibodies, little flags for coronavirus? Because if you do, that means your body's already seen coronavirus before and it's built all these little flags. It's waiting for it to come back. You're probably immune, right? Now, how long does your body make antibodies? We don't know. How long does it take to start making them? We don't know. What's the specific one it makes? We don't know, right? That's why it takes some time to study. How does your body respond to the coronavirus? And what antibodies and when does it make them? We got to do some research in order to figure out what is a really good molecule to test for, to put in the test. I don't know. How do we interpret the results so that we can tell people yes or no? That takes some time and it takes some development, right? So China is sending me an email saying, hey, we got one. We got an antibody test. You want to buy it? And I thought, yeah, I'd really like to, because it's the worst thing about this epidemic is that I can't get tested. When I feel sick, I can't get tested. When my employees are maybe a little sick, I don't know what they have. I'd like to get them tested, and I can't. There's no testing available in any feasible way around here for the coronavirus. I don't have anything. So yeah, I want to get that. I want to get that until I looked into it a little bit and found out that a lot of this stuff is fake today. It's fake right now. Why? Because we need time to figure out how to make a robust one. So that's been coming along. Obviously, this is like a great gold mine. Who doesn't want to be the guy that makes the pregnancy test for coronavirus? That's definitely going to be somebody's making a lot of money there. So lots of labs are trying to figure it out. And so here comes China. They're going, this is it. Here you go. And I wanted to call your attention to, let's go back here, to my buddy Peter the MD in Florida, his tweet. This is why I made this video. So he says, in January, I got very sick. He was sick in January with a flu-like illness, but much worse, no sleep for 2 days, and he almost checked himself into the ED. So he was sick in January. Now later on in this thread, he goes on to tell us where he lives, and he lives in Florida. So if we look here at Florida, we can see, you guys can't see my stuff. I forgot to take this away. Well, let me go back. Oh, boo. Oh, you can't see any of that. Yeah, so let's back it up a little bit. Just to back it up a little bit, this is the graphic that I wanted to show you about what testing looks like here in my home county of Monroe County, New York. But let's fast forward. This is my buddy Peter the MD, who's tweeting, and we can read his tweet in January. He got very sick with a flu-like illness with no sleep for 2 days, and he almost checked himself into the ED in January. Later, he tells us that he lives in Florida, And we can click over and just say, when did this COVID-19 show up in Florida? And we can find out from the local news that it was first detected in Florida on March 1st. So it was first detected in Florida on March 1st. And remember, looking back here in Monroe County, where this virus was first detected 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago here, 0 cases. Today, 390 cases. 2 weeks in a rural area. So is it possible that Peter had coronavirus COVID-19 in January? No, it's not. Why? Because if he did, where are the bodies? It's way crazy contagious, like we've already discussed. Right? So it's really not feasible. He had something, but it could not have been COVID-19. He's an MD. He should know this, right? So what does he do? He buys the test like this. This is the test. This is an email that I'm getting from China. Hey, you want to buy this test? This, unproven test based on, a good idea. But does this test work? I have absolutely no idea. I did want to buy this test. So just like Peter, who it turns out when you ask Peter, where'd you get this test? Which he claims is positive. Here's me asking, where'd you get this test, etc. And look at all of these people who are saying, yeah, me too. I probably had it too. Yeah, I think I had it. Me too. Where'd you get the test? I want to get this test. Where'd you get this test? And he tells us where he got the test. He got the test in China. Now, I went to buy the test in China as well. I want this test too, don't you? And my Chinese supplier said, I'm not selling you that test. That test has maybe a 60% accuracy. 60% accuracy on something that says, yes, you have it, no, you don't. Flipping a coin is 50% accurate. 60% accurate, that's not a test, right? The only thing worse than not being able to test is having bad test, right? And then I looked into it. Like, does everybody know this is a bad test? Yeah, everybody knows this is a bad test. Let's look over here at what happened in Spain. Spain said, I'm going to buy those tests. Now, it's not just China that's making tests. Lots and lots of people are trying. There's a big race, right? Who can be the first? The first one, we got to be the first. Think of the money, the gold mine, that we can be the first one with a pregnancy test for coronavirus. We got to stay up all night. It's got to be us, right? There's lots of groups that are trying to win that, right? So Spain, it sucks in Spain. People are dying. Spain is so desperate. They'll take anything, if it has even a magic 8 balls chance of working, it's worth it to try. So Spain bought a bunch of these tests. And look what happened here in this article. What happened when Spain bought a bunch of these antibody tests? Coronavirus test kits withdrawn in Spain over poor accuracy. They had a batch with only 30% detection rate. That's really low, right? A coin flip is 50%. You got to work hard to have a test that's so shitty that has a 30% detection rate. Probably the 30% comes from taking a bunch of samples are positive and are negative and seeing what it matches up. That's a shit. That's not a test at all. The only thing worse than not being able to test, which is horrible, is having a bad test. That is worse. What if you have a bad test that tells you, yep, you already had it. You're immune. Take off your mask. Give away your Purell. Go on back to work. Cough in the grocery store. It didn't matter. You're immune, right? That would be terrible if it wasn't true. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Let's go back and look at Peter. So Peter has gotten a questionable test from China that is not FDA approved. It is not even evaluated by the FDA. It fell off a truck in China, and here it is. And he, as an MD, is saying, hey, I got sick in January, which he knows that is not possibly COVID-19. Had no idea what it was. Today, I checked my COVID-19 antibody status, and he has IgG. Now, IgG is the flag that your body makes a couple weeks, 10 days or more after you've been infected. It means you were infected a while back. So he's looking at this test. See how the test works? You put your little drop of blood there at the sample spot, and then it's going to go on up. And you see the line there for C, that's going to be for control, meaning your sample traveled all the way up through the thing. And then you can see a G and an M line. Now look at this. He's saying, look at that. That's positive for G. I am positive. He's reading that as a positive result. Is that positive? I don't know. Weakly positive at best. How do we know, though, that the thing that these people plated to grab the flag, the IgG antibody for coronavirus, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19, what if it's sort of cross-reactive to the common cold coronavirus that he probably already had, right? How do we know that it's actually specific and is really reporting on COVID-19 coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2, right? That's what makes this really tough. Now, it's a wonderful idea to have a vetted, FDA-approved, reliable, manufactured under really regulated, tightly controlled conditions, a test that we can trust that will come. So we will be able to finally get an answer. Did you already have coronavirus? Yes or no? That will come. We will be able to get that answer. But this is terrible, right? Because here we've got this guy who's saying, hey, look what I did. Fell off a truck antibody test from China. I stuck myself. I bled out on this thing. I got a faint line. And now I'm telling everybody, hey, I'm COVID positive. I already had this thing. I'm going to go to work. And who knows what, drop the drop the personal protective equipment. I don't know. Now, if you go on to read it, I think that he does a good job of saying, I'm going to test myself again. These are available in the U.S. have been used widely in China. I'm trying to get these in from China. Remember, when I tried to buy them from China, China told me, you don't want that. At best, they're bad, right? So know that. And that's my message for you guys, that if you think that you had COVID-19 in the winter, you probably didn't. If it was February, maybe, right? If it was March, you definitely did, right? Because that's how the nature of exponential growth goes. And number two, I want you to know that one day soon, there will be FDA-approved antibody tests you're going to be able to pee on a stick. You're going to be able to get a little bit of blood and get an answer in 10 or 15 minutes, just like a pregnancy test. It will happen, but it's finicky and you got to get it right. And you have to study a little bit more. You have to study to figure out, when do people start making this antibody? When does it peak? And there's so many questions that we don't know. Which protein should we put on the plate? Which match should we be trying to test, right? It will happen, but it needs to be really regulated in order to have a test that we can count on. And I'm worried that you guys out there are going to, like anyone would, think I probably had it, because we had such a terrible flu season with a lot of false negatives. Another test that kind of doesn't pick up things very well, right? So we had the flu, a lot of us, and think that we didn't because the test said no, right? That's a bad test, right? And if we combine that human hopefulness, like, I want to have already had it, because if I already had it, I'm safe, and we want to be safe. And I'm worried that we're going to combine that human hopefulness. I'd love to just be free from the worry. I'm not going to be one of the ones that die. I'm not going to be gasping for air. I hope I already had it. I mean, I was really sick. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if we're we're done with it? Wouldn't that be great? We'll be able to get the answer, but do not rely. Do not get the Chinese test. Wait for an FDA approved test that is produced by some company that has bothered to get FDA approval. FDA is fast tracking things, right? So just wait and you'll be able to get those answers. All right. That's what I wanted to convey from this article. So if you think this stuff is valuable, then share or just speak up about this. I'm really counting on folks that see this to just be active on social media, on forums, on articles, and on Twitter, to just, when you see stuff like this, say, I don't think so. Did you know a lot of those are fake? Did you know that Spain had to throw away a bunch of them? Did you know that is a great idea, but just not right now? Did you know these things can't pick up an early infection at all? It's got to be like, did you already have it, right? So really, really be thoughtful, and I'm really counting on you guys to help spread that message. And if there's anything else that you want to know about or that you want to talk about, that you want to get my eyes on the primary research to help translate it for you guys, then I would love to do that for folks that regularly watch my channel. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions about any of this stuff, because I know it's a really scary time. So thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing this one, because YouTube is definitely not going to do it. And that is all I got to say about coronavirus right now.